Hello everyone, Mrs Briggs here. This is a PowerPoint presentation to help you understand the zones of regulation, and hopefully you'll find it helpful and you will be able to start using the zones of regulation at home to support your child and perhaps even other members in your family with their emotions and their feelings. So let's make a start with thinking about what the zones of regulation programme is and where it's come from. The Zones of Regulation programme is a social and emotional learning curriculum and regulation programme. It was set up 15 years ago by a lady called Leah Keepers, who went to the University of Wisconsin, and she was an occupational therapist there. And she set up this empowering instructional tool. And the main aim of it was to build safe, supportive environments that foster learning and well-being for all. It can be used for children from nursery right through to the end of secondary school. And in fact, lots of people I've worked with have said that as adults, they find the zones of regulation really helpful as well. What are the benefits of the zones of regulation? Well, let's first of all have a little think about why we should teach self-regulation. Regulation is something that everyone continually works on, whether we're aware of it or not, and whether we are adults or children, it's something that everybody is dealing with. We all encounter very trying circumstances at times that can test our limits. If we can recognise when we're becoming less regulated, we're able to do something about it to manage our feelings and get ourselves to a more healthy place. It comes more naturally for some people, but for others it's a skill that needs much more attention and practice, and this is the goal of the zones of regulation. If you imagine getting these goals set in children, young children and our young people, then it will make adult life for them so much, well, a lot more easy, shall we say, if they have tools in place from a young age to manage emotions and that they're much more self-aware and able to self-regulate. So the aim is really to breed a generation of people who are really well educated and able to be emotionally literate and have strategies that will support them when they need them through life. There's many benefits of the zones regulation, and you can see them on this slide. The first one in orange is an increased self-awareness and social of the social and emotional skills. The second one underneath is about time. Just, we have more time being spent on learning instead of behaviour management. If children are able to regulate their emotions and regulate their behaviour more in class, then yeah, there's much more teaching that's able to go on in the classroom. There's also a common language for communication, and this is the big one that we really want to get in place in school, and we are working on at the minute, and hopefully your children will be able to share a little bit about the zones with you. We really want to get a common language in our school for communication from Form 1 right through to Form 8, so that they're equipped to go on into senior school and beyond, really understanding their emotions. It's great for problem solving and for emotional understanding as well. And that common language isn't just in school, but that's exactly why we're doing this PowerPoint for you, so you can also embed the language of the zones at home and share in that common language too. And finally, obviously, as I've kind of said and pointed towards already, it gives a much healthier, more inclusive school climate. But not only that, hopefully by using it at home too, it allows your home to be healthy and inclusive of everybody's feelings and emotions. And of course, the wider world. And as I've already mentioned, going forward into adulthood for these children, it will allow them to have a healthier climate to live in as well, if everybody is much more aware of managing their feelings and emotions. If we think about our experience and how life has changed since the COVID pandemic, I'm sure you'll agree that we are seeing more people who are struggling to manage their feelings and their mental health. It may be because we are much more aware of the impact of life on our mental health and the need to, there's a lot more now about taking care of our self-care and being more aware of our mental health. There's a lot more dialogue around mental health. It's not the taboo subject that perhaps it used to be. We're also seeing a lot of children and young people requiring therefore more additional support, social, emotional and behavioural support as well, in schools and out with schools. So yeah, there's definitely a great need for us to teach children about emotions and make them more emotionally literate and help them to understand the feelings within their body which come with emotions. We really want to equip children from a young age to understand their emotions and be able to access the tools and strategies to help them, as I've said, and really have tools for life. So how do the zones work? Well, there are 4 colours, nice and simple, and that's why we believe it works. There's the blue zone, the green zone, the yellow zone and the red zone, and I'll just take you through each of those ones briefly just now. The blue zone describes low states of alertness and down feelings, such as when a person feels sad, tired, sick, hurt, lonely or bored. Our energy is low and our body is moving slowly when we're in the blue zone. The green zone describes a calm, alert state. In the green zone, we might be feeling happy, focused, content, peaceful or calm. The nervous system feels safe and organised and connected. And we're almost like we're being primed to learn. And that's why it's a good one for the classroom. Although we can learn in other zones too, because there's all sorts of different types of learning that we do. The yellow zone is described as a zone when our energy is much higher and our internal state starts to elevate. Our emotions can get a little stronger in the yellow zone. We might be experiencing stress, frustration, anxiety, excitement, silliness, confusion, nervousness. We might be overwhelmed or have the wiggles when we're in the yellow zone, unable to sit still. And finally, the red zone is a state of extremely high energy and intense, very overwhelming feelings. We may be in an extremely heightened state of alertness, potentially triggering our fight, flight, freeze or flee protective response. We may feel elated, euphoric. We might feel angry, rage, devastated, out of control, panicked or terrified when we're in the red zone. It's also important, as I've already said, to remember all zones really are okay. We go through so many different emotions on our day-to-day life, even as adults, and it's important to remember that we shouldn't be favouring one zone over the other. A core belief of the zones of regulation is that all the zones are okay. We routinely experience several of these zones across the day, so it's critically important that we don't convey the message that the green zone is the only acceptable zone to be in. We need to acknowledge, accept and support all the feelings that we have in all the different zones and never make anyone feel like the green zone is the norm. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the blue zone. So you can see again the list of emotions that you might be feeling if you're in the blue zone, feeling down, feeling lonely, sick, tired. And on the other side of the slide, there are some lists of strategies. It's important to have some strategies. We call it our toolbox, our emotional toolbox, and find out what works for the child. One thing that obviously is the age-old strategy: when you've got a problem, share it, because we know that a problem shared is a problem halved. So talking to somebody is obviously a good first step and something we would always encourage children to do, particularly if they're feeling blue at school. It's best to talk about it before going home rather than taking it home and letting it grow into a much bigger problem because you're kind of overthinking it. Try and let or try and encourage the children to speak to an adult at school before they go home. It's really important. Doing something as simple as preparing some healthy food, because sometimes children are just hungry and they need some nutrients into their body to get them back on track, and it's the same for us as adults. That whole kind of sense of hangry is a real thing, so feed the children and see if that makes them feel better. Another good strategy is just grabbing a nice drink and having some time on the sofa, maybe watching some telly, reading a good book, all that sort of distraction to retrain the brain onto a different plane of thinking. And again, getting out in the fresh air is a good strategy. Yoga, if your child likes yoga, or any sort of mindfulness activities, is good for blue zone. The other thing that is of course an option is to wait it out, and don't beat yourself up about feeling blue, and encourage the children, just to remember that everybody has blue moments, adults, children, all of us. Sometimes we don't even know why, and perhaps we just all need a little bit of downtime in those moments, and we quite often bounce back. Obviously, if it's an ongoing season of blue zone emotions and it's been going on a while, get in touch with your GP or counsellor and maybe have a little chat about support for that if it's ongoing. For green zone emotions, when people are feeling calm and happy and focused and so on, some good strategies are to get on with the difficult tasks that you probably procrastinate about whenever you're in the blue zone. So yeah, any difficult tasks will give a sense of achievement, and that's great for children to feel that. Making the most of the time to get through their work, that's why it's the best zone to be in the classroom, because you really do get the optimal learning from children when they're in the green zone, calm and focused and peaceful. It's also a nice time to see a relative you've been meaning to but haven't got around to see. Do your work, get on with your work, but don't push yourself too hard. And it's a good time to try new things. You're calm and you're probably able to take on new things much better in the green zone than you would be in the yellow or the blue, certainly the red zone. Journaling is always really good. People think that journaling is something that should be done whenever you're having a bad day, but it's actually really good to record your good moments as well. So journaling, so you've got a nice positive journal to look back on, and being positive and helping others, looking out for people who are perhaps in another zone. So if you've got someone in the family, a child in the family who's in a green zone and another child who's maybe in the blue zone or the yellow zone, the child in the green zone can be a great help in being positive and helping others to think more positively as well. And of course, getting exercise is great for any zone really, but particularly when you're feeling focused and relaxed. Yellow zone children tend to display much higher energy. It can be positive energy or it can be negative energy. It depends very much on where they are geographically as to whether the yellow zone is going to be helpful or not to them. If it's in the playground, it's no problem. If it's on the games field, it's not really a problem if they're excited and they've got adrenaline running through their veins. But if they are in the classroom and the expected behaviour is more of a green zone level, then the yellow zone can be a little bit tricky. So having strategies at home and in school to help when children are feeling frustrated or worried or agitated, or if they're excited in an unhelpful way, those strategies become really important. And it's about finding the strategies that are going to work for the child. So making lists, getting the child to make a list of the things they need to get out of their head, or quite a lot of children like to doodle and draw, and that just, there's something about getting from their head down their arm, out their hand onto the paper that really is quite freeing for them. Talking to someone, taking a break, going outside, getting grounded. There's some great grounding exercises that you can do with children to get their mind back on track, such as, can you see 5 green things, 4 yellow things, 3 blue things, 2 red things, and so on. Or using their senses. Tell me 5 things you can see. Tell me 4 things you can smell or hear. Tell me 3 things you can smell. Tell me 2 things you like the taste of, and so on. And 1 thing you like the feeling of. Getting that kind of change in their thinking really helps to bring them back to calm if they're in an area where the yellow zone just isn't going to work for them. There's lots of other strategies as well, but it's about finding the strategies that work for the child, and it might be a little bit of experimenting till you find the ones that work. For the red zone, children tend to really cross a line into extremely high energy. It can be very intense, very overwhelming feelings come in the red zone. There can be very much a sense of the fight, flight, or freeze protective responses coming in. You'll see children have a much more heightened state of alert, whether they are elated and euphoric or angry and raging. It will look the same. It will look like, yeah, a much more heightened state that they will be in. And you'll be aware, you know, when your children have these very overwhelming feelings, it can be really hard to bring them back down to the expected kind of level of zone for the situation. The red zone, it's really important to have strategies that work for your child for this, and this is definitely the area that I think parents and we all, whether we're adult or children, find the most challenging. There's the usual strategies of taking deep breaths and calming down, and I have to say that doing something physical is really, really beneficial for red zone behaviour. Going for a run around the playground often helps at school. Doing some PE or something that really gets it brings down the adrenaline and tires them out a little bit. Talking to somebody who's unconnected with whatever the event is that's caused them to go into the red zone, having a conversation with the person can be very calming in terms of taking them away from the situation and having a chance to almost just get everything out of their system and talking it through, and perhaps even writing down or drawing their feelings, again, like what I mentioned in the yellow zone, with a journal or doing some doodling to get their feelings out. Traditional counting to 10, it can work, and if they are children who like a hug at home, then yeah, hugs can be really lovely. Just a caveat to that is some children will not want to hug when they're in the red zone, and at times you just need to leave the children alone and give them time to come out. One of the strongest tools that you will find in the red zone is time. Acknowledging and validating the child's feelings and giving them time to calm down. Once they're back in the yellow zone or the green zone, they will be more receptive to perhaps your hug and your words. So always bear in mind that giving children time is really valuable when they're in the red zone, and validation of their feelings hugely important as well. Okay. Using the zones at home will be really great to have a shared language that we are using at school and at home. So I would really encourage you to start kind of trying to drop in what zone you're feeling, asking the children about what zone they may be in. It really does give a shared language between family members, which can be instrumental in really making a huge difference to family life. It allows everybody to be much more emotionally literate with themselves, within themselves, but also with each other. And it allows everyone to learn the tools and strategies that work for them. So you can investigate all the different tools and strategies that work for each member of your family, and some of them may be similar, some of them may be different. It does help children grow into healthy adults who are able to self-regulate and have positive relationships with themselves and with others as well. I've put some pictures up here just to show you of ways that you can have a zones of regulation station at home. Some quite creative ways. My favourite way is the way with the Lego. Very easy to do with the little platform coloured sheets of Lego. You can have a red zone, a blue, a green and a yellow, and you can each create your own little character from Lego. Use your favourite character if you wish, or I think in the Lego shop you can go and make up your little people if you feel that way inclined. And if you each have a character, and then during the day you can move your character to wherever you feel you are, and it's a lovely visual representation, and then it allows conversations about, oh look, Daddy's in the blue zone today, what can we do to help him? He's had a really busy day yesterday, and let's do something nice for Daddy today. Or oh look, mummy's in the yellow zone because she's a bit nervous. She's got a big presentation to do at work tomorrow. What can we do to help mum? Things like that just bring out lovely conversations within the family. I haven't tried the one with the kitchen roll. It looks like kitchen roll and elastic bands. Again, the elastic bands, different coloured elastic bands can be representing different members of the family, and you just move them along to show what zone you're in at the time. I would have a check-in, particularly at the weekends whenever everybody's together, because if you're anything like my family, that's when tempers seem to get frayed the most. Also evenings, perhaps at bedtimes, it's always good to check in, and first thing in the morning, just whenever you feel the need. You know your family's best. There's also this poster on the Zones of Regulation website that you can print out and maybe stick up on your fridge or your notice board to remind everybody about the zones. Hopefully that gives you a few ideas to get started anyway. There are some do's and don'ts of zones of regulation, so I'll just go through some of the do's with you just now. I've already mentioned that all zones are okay. Remember that being mad isn't bad, and it's really important that children understand that, and that we share that we all go through these different emotions throughout the day. It's also important that we remember that our zone is determined by how we feel on the inside, not on our outward behaviour. Some children are very good at masking how they're feeling, and it's important that children feel ready to speak about their emotions on the inside. Try and own your zone as well. Try and model your own zones and your most effective strategies for developing your emotions and for helping understand that all zones are experienced and are okay. You need to model that yourself with your child and do as many chats and check-ins as needed for that to be clear. But yeah, modelling your zone is really important. There's no point in just talking about the children's zones all the time. Make sure that as a family you are all sharing that language and owning your zone. Try and use your zones all the time. Use them throughout the day in restorative conversations. Use them for problem solving. Use them to teach. Use them in discussions, and try and have time to revisit the concepts with your child after you've kind of applied some of the strategies as well, just to check in and see what's working and what's not. Check-ins are really important, and obviously the tools, just use as many of the tools as you can. Start digging into the different tools and strategies that are available, see what works for you. The website on zones of regulation is really good. Having as many different regulation tools and strategies to use empowers children to be much more independent with their regulation, and it allows for inclusion for those who might struggle with the skills as well. So really do take some time to investigate with your children, talk about what tools might go in their toolbox and what works for them and what works for you. And it might be interesting because different things will work for you, and perhaps other members in your family, it could be very different, or it might be interesting if you're all the same. Finally, I would recommend that you set up your zone space at home as well, and whether it's with the Lego or you think of your own little creative way of doing it, or even if it's just a poster up on the fridge or the notice board, try and have an area in your home where you can really focus in on the zones with your zone station. Here's a little link to the Zones Regulation website, which is really good and has plenty of ideas, information and resources on it. There's a particularly good part in the resources section. If you scroll down kind of towards the bottom of the page, there's a home section, and within that there's a video that you can watch about setting up your own little Zones Regulation station at home, and there's other information, lots of nice visual posters and things you can look at. So have a little look at that, and hopefully you'll find it useful. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. I hope you find that helpful. If you've got any queries, any questions, please do get in touch. You can either give me a ring through the school office or send an email through the school office or catch me in the playground. I'd love to hear if you are starting to embed this at home, how you're finding it, whether it's making a difference to any of your conversations, whether you feel your children are becoming more emotionally literate because of it, whether it's helping you as it has helped me in my home to explain my feelings to my children as well. It's a really exciting time at the Compass to be introducing all of this and tying it in with yourselves at home for that shared language. So again, thanks for listening, and I hope you find it useful. Bye.